Welcome, listener. Today we're unpacking a stack of sources that really challenge the whole idea of self-improvement. We've all been sort of conditioned to believe success means becoming better, adding skills, grinding harder, achieving more.
But the sources we've gathered today, they present this, well, radical idea. The path forward is actually a path backward, a journey of rediscovery. The basic premise is you don't need to add anything. You actually need to shed layers, layers of fear, societal conditioning, to reveal the authentic self that's already buried under there.
Wow, it's a huge perspective shift. It implies we're not broken, not really in need of fixing,
Yeah,
but just kind of obscured.
exactly.
So our mission today is to understand, well, why do we feel compelled to change ourselves? How does that process separate us from our authentic identity? And maybe most importantly, what practical steps do these sources suggest for getting back on course?
Yeah, and the core question is pretty profound when you think about it. If we are born essentially perfect, why do we spend our entire adult lives trying so desperately to fit in?
Okay, let's start at the beginning then, this baseline. The sources define it as the truest human form, right? Present at birth.
That's the idea. Pure, without knowledge of the world, and crucially, unconditioned.
Unconditioned, meaning like a baby hasn't yet been told you're too loud or you're not smart enough or you need to act this way to be loved.
You're right.
They haven't developed those complex thoughts from language or comparison.
Exactly. No social hierarchy yet. They just are, existing in their purest human form, driven by pure curiosity and, well, immediate needs. But that purity, it's fleeting, isn't it? As time goes on, we're inevitably conditioned, socialized.
By external forces,
Yeah.
parents, peers,
Schools, mass media, everything. We internalize this pressure to conform.
and that comparison thing. It's like this silent driver of self-rejection, isn't it? We look around and think, okay, my reality isn't quite right, so I need to mold myself to look more like that acceptable reflection I see.
And this molding process, the sources use a powerful term for it. They call it being domesticated.
Domesticated.
Yeah, like we're shaped into someone we think we must be, just to get approval, acceptance. We break away from the truest version of ourselves because, well, the world seems to demand it for survival, for belonging.
Hold on, though. Domesticated sounds, I don't know, a bit harsh.
I know.
Aren't social norms, learning skills, cooperating, isn't that stuff essential? Are the sources saying reject all of society?
No, not at all. And that's what's really fascinating here. It's a paradox. The sources actually argue that this break, this moving away from the true self in childhood, it's not only natural, it's actually necessary.
Necessary, how so?
You can't really find your true self, like consciously work towards it every day, define your own values, unless you've first gone through the pain and confusion of being completely lost.
Okay.
The trauma of that break becomes the catalyst for genuine self-discovery later on.
So the detour is the path.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to identify the symptoms then, the signs of being lost. Where does this loss of self actually show up in our adult lives? Because I imagine it's often subtle, right? Like a lifetime of tiny decisions,
Yeah.
prioritizing acceptance over authenticity.
Absolutely. It manifests primarily through what some call the chameleon effect. Especially in relationships and groups, we become experts at performing, changing our personality, our interests, even our sense of humor just to fit in or feel accepted by a partner.
Oh, yeah.
It's exhausting trying to keep up that facade tailored for everyone you meet.
The sources have a great example of this in relationships, don't they?
Yeah.
The person adopting their partner's hobbies wholesale.
Right. They mentioned this friend who dated someone for years and got really into Star Wars,
Yeah.
saw every movie, collected the stuff purely because it was the partner's passion. Then the relationship ends and the friend just blurts out, "I totally hate Star Wars."
Wow.
That whole interest was just a performance, an identity borrowed just for acceptance, for comfort. That's so relatable. And it's not just dating, is it? Think about high school or college groups. We mold our speech, our clothes, our behavior just for that tribal acceptance.
And the cost of that acceptance is authenticity. That cost builds up like an internal debt. The source material shares this story about high school, saying they used to smoke a lot of weed with a certain group just to fit in,
Right.
but then realized afterwards, I never really liked the way that I felt. They were literally putting themselves in a state they disliked,
Just to belong.
just to secure inclusion, yeah.
And if the conditioned self is constantly doing things the true self dislikes, well, that creates internal conflict, doesn't it?
It does.
Which leads to wanting to just numb that discomfort.
That's the key insight in the sources about numbing behaviors.
Yeah.
Like excessive drinking or partying, maybe carried over into college and beyond. The purpose isn't always just fun. Often, it's about muting that internal dissonance, that conflict.
The conditioned self is the persona we show the world. The truest self, that gut feeling, that intuition, deep down it often rejects the performance. So if you feel bad about who you are, the easiest path seems to be silencing that inner critic. Distraction, altered states, whatever works.
We spend so much energy trying to outrun that intuitive voice. And this is where it connects to the bigger picture, right? We're basically born into this pre-written societal script, and most of us just follow it without really questioning it.
Absolutely. The sources detail this prescribed path. Starts in grade school. It's linear. Good grades get you into a good high school, which gets you into a good college, which leads to a high-paying job, and then you climb the corporate ladder. Success defined by external stuff. Status markers you can measure.
It's relentless. And we follow the herd based on what society reflects back as good or successful. Validation.
But if you're following a map someone else drew for you, the inevitable outcome often is waking up one day and realizing, wow, I have a life I didn't actually choose. I didn't create this.
That conflict between the prescribed should and the authentic want. That's the breakdown point.
That's what causes the structure to wobble, yeah. That realization the moment you pause and ask, what the hell am I doing? How did I even get here? That's the source of the infamous midlife crisis. It's not random. It's the sound of the conditioned structure collapsing under the weight of its own inauthenticity.
It sounds painful, but the sources frame it as like a moment of potential, a necessary failure.
If we allow it to be, yes.
Yeah.
This is the point where we're often forced to stop looking externally for validation, grades, money, praise, whatever, and we have to start searching internally. The whole process is described like a snake shedding its skin.
Shedding skin.
Yeah. The parts of the conditioned self, the parts that aren't really us, they need to be allowed to die, to fall away.
And sometimes that shedding happens, well, violently, forced by painful feedback from the outside world that shatters that protective shell we build. I think we need to talk about that anecdote from the sources. The mentor, Matt, at Chipotle. That seems crucial for understanding how external pressure can force internal change.
It's a perfect example of transformation through, well, tough love. The individual in the story was 21, running the #1 office out of 700 for a huge company.
Wow, okay. Success, right.
Objectively, yes. They thought their success validated their personality. Then Matt, the mentor, calls them up, meets them at Chipotle, all places, and just cuts right through it. A lot of people don't like you.
Oof, that's blunt, especially when you're, like, killing it metrics-wise. Why didn't they like him?
The sources explain he developed this brash, cutting, know-it-all persona, but it wasn't his true self. It was a protective shell, built out of fear of being vulnerable, getting wounded.
Yeah.
The internal motto is basically, I'm going to hurt you first so you don't hurt me.
So the external success was achieved by this defensive conditioned persona.
Exactly. And that persona was actually repelling people.
So that conversation, it was like this catastrophic feedback loop he needed.
It forced the realization who you think you need to be to succeed might actually be pushing people away, leading to isolation.
Right. So the tough moments, breakups, harsh feedback, losing a job, they're actually these profound, if painful, lessons.
If we let them be, yeah. If we allow them to break down the walls of that conditioned self.
We need to get completely lost, it sounds like.
To build the true self back up, from scratch almost.
Okay.
And that brings us to the path of rediscovery, which has to start with awareness. The first step, like realizing you've been driving the wrong way for hours, is just recognizing, okay, I'm way off course.
And that awareness needs to be specific, right? You have to pinpoint how you lost yourself. Was it changing your career for family, chasing job titles, getting a degree you felt you had to get?
Exactly. Identifying the conditioning. Once you do that, the next crucial step is defining your values. Separate from that prescribed life, the sources suggest something they call the funeral test.
The funeral test. Okay, this sounds intense. It's a visualization tool.
Yeah. You mentally project yourself forward to your own funeral. And you ask, what would I want people to say about me in the eulogy?
Right. And this is where all those condition markers just fall away.
Totally. The sources are really clear on this. Nobody at your funeral is going to talk about your job title or how much money you made or your car or the size of your house. That external stuff, irrelevant in that final moment of reflection.
What matters is characteristics, habits, traits, how you made people feel.
Precisely. Were you kind, generous, a good listener, loyal? That's the list. That's the stuff you want to build your life around.
Okay, but let's apply a critical lens here for a second.
Hmm.
How do you, the listener, make sure the values you define, like, say, being influential or being successful, aren't just new forms of conditioning, still based on society's ideas?
That's a really important check, a necessary one. The sources stress that the true values have to feel authentic inside of my body.
Mm.
They shouldn't be defined by external metrics. So being influential might become, internally, I want to be known for articulating my thoughts clearly and honestly.
Ah, okay. You internalize the characteristic. Separate it from the, like, conditioned desire for fame or power.
Exactly. Internal consistency is key. You develop this list of characteristics that genuinely feel true to your deepest intuition. And you use that list as your map, which leads to the final and maybe most crucial step, the daily practice.
Right. It's not about some overnight identity transplant.
No way.
The sources emphasize incremental change, tiny steps.
It means waking up, looking at that list, your core values, your true characteristics, and consciously trying to become a little bit more of that person every single day.
So if you listed integrity, the daily practice is maybe rejecting those small opportunities to cut corners at work or whatever.
Exactly. Or if you listed presence, the daily practice is intentionally putting your phone away when you're talking to someone you care about. You're slowly, deliberately shedding the conditioned skin by reinforcing the authentic self. Hundreds of small, conscious actions.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It means the goal isn't really transformation. It's return. If you commit to this daily incremental reinforcement, focusing on the values that define your authentic eulogy, in 5 years, 10 years, you'll actually be the person you truly are, not the person you felt pressured to be by external expectations.
Yeah. We've covered the whole spectrum, haven't we? From that perfect beginning to the sort of trauma of conditioning, the
Mm.
collapse of the societal script, and then this deliberate path of rediscovery.
The core takeaway really is this radical idea that getting lost isn't just okay, it's maybe the prerequisite for finding your true internal map.
The ultimate journey of self-improvement is actually self-peeling.
Self-peeling, I like that. It's a demanding process for sure,
Yeah.
honest. But maybe the only way to get that internal consistency.
Which raises, I think, an important final question for you to consider today. If your truest self is defined by characteristics and values, and your conditioned self is defined by external success markers, grades, job title, money, how much of your current effort right now is spent building a life that the real you deep down secretly rejects? I mean, think about this. What one piece of conditioned skin, maybe a fake habit, a borrowed opinion, a protective persona, what one piece could you intentionally start to shed today?